Hello and welcome to my return to Minllyn Mine. I was last here in 2011. I know that because it was the year before my daughter was born, and behind me there is the main adit entrance to the mine which we came out of. So my father and I were rescued here by 22 Squadron Air Sea Rescue, and the video for that is also included, but I'm going to tell you a little bit more about the full story of what happened because they didn't show everything on the telly. Behind me here we have the mill buildings, which I remember waiting alongside for the ambulance men to come. And then in front of that, I think that's where we were rescued from actually, where this stand of trees is now. Obviously it's been 12 years since it happened. So let's go and see if we can... I'm not going underground today, I should say. I promised my wife when I got home and found out she was pregnant that I wouldn't go on any unpaid for underground expeditions. So, but I'm just going to have a look at the surface workings. So beyond that fall, the tunnel goes into another chamber which is open to the sky, and then beyond that fall the water is an awful lot deeper. It's as deep as that fall basically. So here we are approaching the main adit. This is some drone footage just to show you the layout of the exterior of the mine. Obviously most of it is actually underground. So that's where's the light at the end of that particular bit of tunnel. And as we climb up, we come up to the sort of next level, external level, and this is an open chamber where it's open to the sky, and that's where the light from the tunnel is, in that chamber there. And if we just pan down a bit, you might be able to see at the bottom of the cliff the tunnel continues further into the hillside, and that leads to the large chamber where the mine goes down, although it's flooded, and it also goes up, and there's a shaft in the ceiling which goes up into this next level up here, which is the shaft that we fell down. And it gives you an idea of the overall height that we had to descend after our accident to actually go down, back down, and then out through the mine. So just approaching this next open chamber, and as we go over the edge and pan down, just in that bottom left corner where the ferns are, that is the sort of air shaft, the mine shaft that we fell down. And we'll have a closer up look of that. But yes, not the most hospitable of places, and I feel the spirit of Dad here with me. Unfortunately he passed in 2018, but I think he would have liked to come back and throw a stone down for all time's sake. God bless Dad. So behind me is the shaft that we both fell down. I managed to climb up out of it. My father got about 90% of the way up and said he can't make it any further, and he fell down. And I could see he was injured. He sort of rolled over, and I could see his arms moving. He's clearly hurt. So I went down to help him, and of course I slid and fell as well. Avoided landing on top of him, but nevertheless I did manage to break my back and my foot in about 4 places. And my father broke his foot in all his metatarsals on one foot, and scraped his forearms quite badly. He slid down on his front, I slid down on my back. Hence the spinal damage. So what we had to do, we had to go back down into the mine, down to the mill there. So a fair old scramble down inside the mine, with our injuries of course, but it hurt whether I moved or whether I stayed still. So we were both quite calm about it. We weren't going to get rescued, so we have to make our way out to get some sort of help. And then when we got into the water, the flooded tunnel, it was about chest deep in water, and that was actually a bliss because the cold numbed the pain a bit and the buoyancy kept the weight off the foot. But anyway, yeah, so we went down. Let's say that stand of trees there, approximately, is where we were. Oh, it's there. Is where we were rescued from. I'd just like to say thanks again to the men of 22 Squadron Air Sea Rescue. Sadly, they've been disbanded now, and but yeah, you guys won big time. If I ever see you, please claim your free beer. Thanks. So here we are, nearly back down. Full disclosure, I did say I'd tell you some of the things that they didn't show in the video. First of all, the ambulance arrived first before the helicopter, and then the ambulance called the helicopter. And pro tip, if you ever want to get mountain rescue, you need to phone the police, and then they call out mountain rescue. If you dial 999, they can't put you through to mountain rescue directly. So we said ambulance because we thought, well, there's no crime being committed or nothing on fire. So yeah, if you want mountain rescue, it's the police. But we got a ride in a Sea King, so hey. It did take them a while to get here because obviously there's no local ambulance stations, and the weather was not too dissimilar looking to this. This is August, that was October, so it was quite a lot colder. So yeah, we waited for the ambulance crew arrived, proceeded to cut off all my clothes and to check for my injuries. That's when they discovered or suspected broken back and the broken foot. They dressed my father's wounds, and then they tried to summon Air Sea Rescue. There was a bit of a discussion about whether it constituted a rescue, which RAF pay for, or patient transport, which NHS pay for. But I think eventually the RAF agreed to foot the bill. Thank you, guys. So the helicopter arrived, and by the time it was overhead, it probably took about an hour to get all of us on board, because they were winching from such a high altitude, much higher than normal. Normally it's about 50 feet. That's more like 150 feet. So I was on a backboard. They took up one of the paramedics first, then my father, and finally me. And when we first lifted off, I started to slide headfirst out of the stretcher, so they had to put us back down. And I think it was just on kind of roughly behind that tree, on the bank behind the mill. I may be wrong. It was a long time ago, and I was full of morphine. So they lifted me up again after they adjusted the stretcher, and we did hit the hillside somewhere. I suspect one of these sort of slate tips here, and so that's what set me spinning. And there actually wasn't any wind, said that it was the crash into the hillside that set me spinning. But it wasn't too bad actually lying on your back. I didn't get dizzy. But yeah, so it did take us about an hour to get up to the helicopter, and first thing they did when I got to the hospital was treat me for hypothermia, because I was very cold at that point. And yeah, if you ever want to jump the queue at A&E, I thoroughly recommend arriving in a Sea King. Anyway, thanks once again to Dan and the team who were flying the helicopter and rescuing me. I got home to find my wife was pregnant, and I've got a beautiful 11-year-old daughter now, so I might not have been able to see all of that. So thanks again. So this next shot, another drone shot, I'm just going to sort of simulate what it was like being rescued, being winched up into the helicopter, and while the basket was spinning round and round. Obviously, it was dark for me when this happened, so I didn't get quite such a good view. But yeah, nevertheless, that's what it looked like, what it felt like. And you get a nice view of the surrounding countryside, very picturesque. And then once we're at the top, view down of what the helicopter pilot might have seen, and also what the experience might have been for the winchman who was being lowered down to rescue us without the spinning this time. See the mill buildings there. So that might not be the exact spot we were rescued from. It's difficult to say where it was. But yes, a very brave man indeed who did that. Well, this is a farewell to Minllyn. That's you and me done. No need to come back here again. I've seen for myself. And I'm going to now walk down this path, which I've walked up twice, but never walked down before. Thanks for watching. See you soon. Bye.
It's the night shift at RAF Valley. Radar operator Livy is on rear crew with winchman Neil Cooper.
Ankle injury,
yes,
and possible back injury.
Lower lumbar on the 40-yard mount.
Okay, both looking like a winch job.
Yep.
In the pilot seat tonight is Flight Lieutenant Dan Loxton. He's used to flying Apache ground attack helicopters in Iraq. flying a search and rescue Sea King offers a different type of challenge.
From my previous flying experience, it's very different. It's arguably not as dynamic in the type of flying that the guys do. Obviously, you're not getting shot at, which obviously is a good thing from my point of view. It's very challenging flying though, because people get into trouble in poor weather conditions, and so that's normally when we go out flying.
In trouble are a father and son injured in a mine near Dinas Mawddwy in mid-Wales. Rescue 122 have arrived at the scene. The conditions are bad. The casualties' injuries need urgent medical attention. But plunged in darkness and fighting high winds, this will be one of the crew's toughest rescues yet.
You've got a good area below that you can commit to, I reckon.
I'd rather stay, to be fair, and maintain a flyaway.
Okay.
This disused slate quarry, with steep inclines either side, makes it a really tight spot for the helicopter. High winds are adding to the difficulty. The crew decide to hover at a height and commit to a very long winch. Night vision goggles and the onboard infrared camera help the crew to see what's happening below. Radar operator Livy helps with the tricky manoeuvre from the side door of the Sea King.
That looks to be about 150, 160 feet, mate.
The first of the two casualties is being recovered by winchman Neil Cooper, but at the mercy of the strong winds, they start to swing dangerously from side to side.
You're drifting to the 6.
"79-year-old Peter Hay is safe on board, but now the crew have to do it all over again to rescue his son. Once more, the wind has put the stretcher in a violent spin. It's at times like these the onboard crew have to face some difficult decisions.
With the wind conditions and the weather conditions and everything else, we have to consider aircraft performance. We have to consider things like if we were to lose an engine at any stage throughout the rescue, we have to discuss what we will do with the winchman if we did have an engine problem, or for whatever reason we had to fly away from the rescue.
The last resort when a rescue threatens the safety of a helicopter is to cut the winch cable. The crew know that the safety of the helicopter has priority. That's before the safety of the winchman and the casualty.
Aircraft safety comes first, winchman, then survivor. So as long as the aircraft and the people in the aircraft are safe, and then when we're winching that the winchman is safe, then we'll get the survivor. If any of those things aren't in place, then it's a dynamic risk assessment.
Slowly but surely, the stretcher inches its way up to the Sea King.
We're okay here.
After a grueling 20 minutes, at last the casualties and winchman Neil are safe on board. For Neil, it's one major relief.
That's the most difficult job I've ever had to do.
But the dramatic story which led to Peter and Daniel's plight only came to light after they were safely in Bangor's Ysbyty Gwynedd. It was supposed to be an exciting day of exploring for the two archaeology enthusiasts from Sussex. Both father and son fell down a steep incline at the Dinas Mawddwy slate quarry. Even with their severe injuries, they had to slowly crawl back up to the top of the slope to get a signal to call for help.
The paramedics came first. I just remember seeing the guys in green, just seeing their heads popping over and thinking, oh, thank goodness. And it was at that point I knew, oh, I'm going to be all right.
I was just winched up with the winchman, and the worst thing was the fact that as you're going up, you're spinning round. And I was thinking, oh, this is just like being seasick. But the helicopter, of course, is incredibly noisy, but incredibly professional. They know exactly what to do, and they do it.
I think the issue that we had there was, one, the difficulty getting in, but ultimately we got the guys out and were able to keep them safe and well. It's a really nice feeling of satisfaction and having made a difference and saved a life.
It's been a busy October for the search and rescue force covering Wales. In total, 39 people were rescued.